The end of Brebeuf's mission statement states that Brebeuf Jesuit affirms two essential principles: the education of the whole person and the care of the person. What if I told you Brebeuf is currently testing out something that, if adopted, would directly contradict the mission statement? You'd probably tell me I'm a little bit off my rocker, but you would have to be mistaken. I'm sure you're all familiar with the new desk Brebeuf has been testing out for next year, which they started doing a few months ago or so. A few weeks ago. Well, I contend that these new desks should not be used at Brebeuf next year because they fail to comply with Brebeuf's mission statement by disrupting the classroom learning environment and by compromising the safety of Brebeuf students. For those of you who are somewhat unfamiliar with the new desks, they have some wheels on the bottom so that you can easily move around the classroom, but the writing surface is much smaller than any of the other desks at Brebeuf in width and length. Now, Carol Bobus, one of the teachers who was testing out these new desks, was pretty blunt in her evaluation of them. "I hate them. They make the room disorderly and dysfunctional," Miss Bobus says. Being a teacher, she is knowledgeable on how to best educate a student. Miss Bobus clearly believes that these new desks would make it more difficult for students to learn because they create a dysfunctional learning environment. It would be pretty difficult to educate the whole person, as Brebeuf clearly wants to do based upon their mission statement, if you cannot adequately instruct them in the classroom. Furthermore, as my colleague Keith Levin says, they are very small and the desk is not very big. It's hard to have a book and a paper out side by side at the same time. Keith raises a significant flaw in the design of these desks. The desks are much smaller in length and width, as I've already stated, than any of the other desks at Brebeuf. Once again, these desks would provide unnecessary hindrances to our learning experience and therefore should not be adopted into further use at the school. As I stated somewhat so earlier, these new desks would somehow threaten our safety. It probably sounds a little bit ridiculous, but I believe they do, and I know from first-hand experience. If you put a group of teenage guys in a room with a desk on wheels, they're going to try to find a way to entertain themselves. I've seen in my own classroom, my European history class, with Miss Bobus, these desks being used as bumper cars, which I did participate in because it was somewhat so enjoyable, but not something we should be doing at school. My friend Grant Nice was gored by one of the desks on his heel while we were playing bumper cars, and he continued to bleed throughout the class. Grant later described the situation to me. As he says, "I was just playing bumper cars, and all of a sudden blood starts spurting out of my heel. I'm not big on diabolical conspiracy theories, but the school's out to get us," says Grant. Now, Grant was clearly joking about his alleged conspiracy theory, but he does raise a valid point. Why should the school begin using something that could easily harm the students when the mission statement clearly says that Brebeuf affirms the principle of care of the person? These new desks would place the students in a much more dangerous place than the current desks do. Brebeuf should not compromise the safety of its students, and therefore should not adopt these desks for use next year. Now, I know that there are probably a lot of people in favor of Brebeuf using these desks. For the teachers, they would say it would increase the possibility for group discussion, which would just overall help the classroom experience. And students would say, as Will Darcy told me, they are fun, which is not really a reason to adopt them because of the reasons I've already stated before. But going back to why teachers would like them, it doesn't justify using them in the classroom because you're going to be compromising the safety of the students and the academic experience we go to Brebeuf to receive, so we shouldn't get them just so we can have group discussion, which we can already do without these desks. So I propose that Brebeuf just continue using the desks they already have and they've been using for the past couple of years, and then next year perhaps they can test out more viable options that are not so impractical, such as these new current desks.